Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to episode 51 of Direwolf20's Let's Play series. Currently messing around, played with a couple different mods to try and find a solution to my we need to drop alternating food. Steak, then ham, then steak, then ham, back and forth, but not two steak in a row and not two ham in a row. Onto those flowers outside in order to produce mana. And I'm trying to figure out a good solution to doing that, and I think I've come up with one. So basically we're going to have... precision dropper. Hello. There you are. I suspected you were being a little bit funny. Cool. So there we go. We got a precision dropper there. This is just a demonstration for the build that I've come up with, maybe. We'll have to see if I like it, because I'm not sure that I like it yet. But let's assume the following, right? So basically, if I set up a timer, say here, right? And you were in pulse mode, right? And we had the timer set to run every, let's make it 120 ticks. So that's every 6 seconds, right? So every 6 seconds, this timer is going to drop one of the items in its inventory. So if I wanted to, I could throw like one piece of steak and one piece of ham in there, and then boom, it drops a piece of steak, and then 6 seconds later, it drops a piece of ham, and then the inventory is empty, right? So what if we had the exporter set on regulator mode, which means it regulates how many items are allowed to be inside this inventory. And we're going to set it to 1 steak and ham each, right? Now what we could do is also, so like if I did it now, what's going to happen is it's going to put a steak and ham in there. After 6 seconds, it's going to drop one, but it's going to immediately refill it. And it's going to put it in that first slot, which is kind of a stink that I don't like, and it's going to keep dropping steak. So we don't want that. What we want to do is specify that you're only going to work when you don't have a redstone signal. And then what if we put, let's turn you off for a sec, right? So I'll take all this food out of here. What if we then put, now I'm not entirely sure about this, but what if we put a comparator? Now this isn't like finalized design, but what if we did this? I could probably just do it with a redstone wire, right? And this. So basically what we'd want is that. Cool. You might actually not be strong enough, because you're going to emit a signal strength of 1, aren't you? Right? Because if I put that and that in there, it's only going to be a signal strength of 1, and that's not going to be enough to hit this guy with a redstone signal, which is a bummer. So we really need this to be a stronger signal. Give me a sec to think about how I might want to solve that. So another option might be integrated dynamics. And what we could try, it would be cool if I could pulse this with integrated dynamics too, which I might be able to come up with a way to do. That's a little bit trickier, but let's just try this, right? So like, what if we did this? If we placed an inventory reader on this dude, okay, and then we placed a redstone writer on this dude, right? And I could put only work with redstone on. So then we could do this and this, right? So you shouldn't be putting things in there, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to get from integrated dynamics, we should be able to get some variable cards, and we should be able to say inventory empty, right? So so the way this works is this is a reader. It can read information about a block. So we chose the inventory reader, which is basically it can read about inventories. There's also fluid readers, there's entity readers, there's block readers, machine readers. You can read all kinds of information about blocks in the world, right? So we can check if the inventory is full. We can check if the inventory is empty, if it's not empty, if it is actually an inventory at all. Like it would come back false if this was like a piece of cobblestone instead of a and those are all booleans, right? Because they're blue. These guys are integers, and they will give you the inventory count, how many slots are filled, the fill ratio, right? So there's 9 slots available in this inventory. If it were a chest, it would be a little bit, it would be 27, right? What items are currently in there. And what you'll note is let's remove this for a second, because I want to put like something in there, right? So if I put some living wood in there, when we look at it, we'll see inventory empty became false instead of true, right? And inventory not empty became true instead of false. And the inventory count is 1 because there's 1 item in there, and there's 1 slot filled, and the slot ratio is up, and the list of items that are in there has been populated with living wood. And then the slot item, that's like the slot. The item in the currently selected slot, and you can choose your slot here. So there's all kinds of information you can read and then use that in an interesting way. So what I'm going to say is the following. I'm going to read whether or not inventory is empty. I'm going to place that variable card in there. Now we have a variable card that's bound directly to this block, checking if the block under it is empty. And it's going to return a Boolean. In this case, it's returning true because it is, in fact, empty. Now, if I place this into this place right here, what it's going to do is it's going to specify whether or not a redstone signal should be output based on that variable block, which is currently true. So when the inventory is empty, the variable is true, it's going to set true the output redstone signal on this writer, which is going to allow the exporter to export items. So if I place this right here, what we should see is items going in there, right? But here's the big important part, is this is now inventory empty false, which means a redstone signal is not being output. See how it's false down here? Now watch what happens. You ready? I'm going to reapply this pulse. Boom, it dropped a piece of ham, and it didn't put another piece of ham in there again because the inventory is still not empty. Then it dropped a piece of steak. Now the inventory is empty, so it emit a redstone signal on the exporter, and boom, drops a piece of ham. Inventory is still not empty, so I'm going to not export any items. Then boom, it drops a piece of steak. Inventory is empty. It emits a redstone signal, which allows the exporter to do its thing. We've just created a drop one item at a time system, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And it's actually working really well, and I'm pleased with it. So this should be actually really easy to duplicate. Cool. So let's do it over at the remote location. By the way, I'm totally having inventory issues, so I think it's about time that we make a satchel, if I may. So what do you need? Wool? Okay. I could probably just get some string. And then get myself a satchel. Which would be this. How many inventory slots are in a satchel? What can I put away for a sec? I want that redstone torch. I guess I'm gonna put away my tape measure for now. Not terrible. Could be better. Let's upgrade him. So we're going to want tin. And we're also gonna want invar. Make some of that, please. Shouldn't be too long to make. Let's go invar. There you are. Cool. So now I can get an invar satchel. How many inventory slots do you have? Not bad. I'm gonna put any like tools. So like right now I'm playing with this, so I might actually want to keep you. So let's put you in there. Like my personal shrinking device, for example, my tome of knowledge, my Lexica Britannia, like things that are like tools that I don't necessarily need to carry in my inventory all the time, right? So that's kind of nifty, right? And anything else that's like a tool type item, right? Like a wrench or anything like that, that, you know, I'm carrying around all the time and I don't necessarily need to. Like my tape measure, that's a good one. That might be cool to carry around. Like my watering can, my wrench from Funky Locomotion. These kinds of things will probably wind up being useful to carry around in my satchel. So that whenever I need like, hey, I need that tool, I can just open up the satchel and get it. Think that will help me in the long run. So let's take another quick nap, and then we'll get over there and start building. I'm going to want 2 more of pretty much everything that I've made here. So we're going to want 2 more droppers, and I'm going to craft all this off camera. Droppers I know how to auto craft, but the rest are going to have to be manually crafted. So first things first, we have to get our network over there. So I'm not entirely sure where I want to set up my network transmitter receiver area. I guess it could be placed right in this little bundle of stuff, or I could kind of like throw it up against this wall back here. Might not be a terrible place for now, and we'll see. So in order to get this working, we're going to need a network transmitter card to be set up with a receiver. So over here-ish, I'll probably want my receiver. And I might want to do this underground and have like, you know, quote unquote underground, and have some other stuff going on with it. So let's get a few pieces of, I probably need more dirt than I can have. Where are you at? There you are, dirt. We'll get like a stack or so, should be fine. So maybe... because I might want to connect this up later, right? So that I can have like coal blocks or something going, or coal something going into those things to keep them automated and running all the time as well. So by doing a little bit of you know, placement here, that might be cool. And maybe you get the idea, right? And then I guess you can place some more. That'll do. Cool. So maybe our receiver can kind of be centered over here somewhere. So we'll stick our receiver right there. And then we're going to want to bind you to 503, 262. That's about where I am, right? Yeah. So then if I go bring this down here, and stick you in there, 53 block range. So power-wise, that's using 53 RF a tick. So not terrible. We're good. So now we have access to our network. The other thing I'm going to probably want to do is teach you how to make steak, because you don't really know how yet. So that's a processing recipe. That's going to have to go into our redstone furnace. Cool. So now you know how to make steak, and you already know how to make ham. And then you know what we're going to need is 3 crafting upgrades. Let's get them kicked off in crafting, and we'll get ready to use them later. So basically what I want to do is, let's have cobblestone here. So you'll be like 1 block above this dude. So we'll put you there. Okay. There and there. Okay. And then we'll set this whole setup in much the same way that we had it before. So I think what I'll do, in the interest of somewhat saving space, we'll put these guys like so. You're each going to be set to redstone yes and regulator yes. So redstone and regulator, redstone and regulator mode. And hopefully these drop in a good way. If not, I might have to rearrange this a little bit, but we'll find out how it goes. And then we're going to want cabling to run straight downish to here. I could probably do this. That looks pretty cool. Okay, so I think that'll work. Good, so you guys should be online with the exporting and everything should be all right with that. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is set up those inventory readers. So we're gonna basically want 1, 2, 3. And we'll want the cables, the energy battery, and the writers. So basically we'll want the writers here, 1, 2, 3. We'll set up the cables. And then the cables that connect all these guys can kind of go across there. And what I could do if I want to is just stick my battery thing there. And can I put you on this? Serving 1 tile, it's serving itself. Cool, so that should work, right? And then all we need to do is put inventory empty. We're gonna want this variable to go in this one. This inventory empty variable to go into this one. And see how easily this is to expand if we want to? Inventory empty goes into this one. Okay, and now all we need to do is tell it what to keep in stock. Oh, we also want those crafting upgrades. So let's do 2 things. Let's first put away like a bunch of steak, but then we're also gonna want our crafting upgrades, which we've gotten 2 of already. Are you still crafting the 3rd one? I did say make 3, right? You shouldn't be that stuck. What are you stuck on? You're stuck on something. Oh, for some reason you took a crafting station and or dictionary probably. Probably just trash can you, right? Silly automation. It shouldn't be or dictionarying is what it shouldn't be doing. So we want crafting upgrades on all of our exporters so that it knows it can on-demand craft whatever it needs to. So not all 3, obviously. That should be cool. All right, so let's make sure our magnet's not on because that thing would definitely mess this up. So boom. So then it eats a ham. Oh wait, we didn't put our timer on. Duh. Stop, 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 stop. Totally forgot about our timer. Little bit of dire derp there. Wasted a bunch of food. We'll live. Let's make sure there's like an extra stack of that and ham as well. Probably didn't waste that much. It's only a little bit of food. It's all automated. So you want pulse mode, and then you also want pulse mode. Pulse, pulse, pulse. And we're also going to want a few more timers. And we might have to tweak the timing a little bit. But 2 of you, 2 of you. So 3 timers. We'll stick with the 120 tick delay. We'll try that first with one of these. So where can I place you that like isn't terrible looking? I guess here. So we'll remove this, and I'll remove this cobblestone because the timers don't need to be placed on something. So we'll start with you. And the block removing it underneath, right? So you're in pulse mode, you're in timer 120. So every 6 seconds it'll go. So I'm gonna put these foodstuffs back in there. Now the first time it'll mess it up, but that's okay. It might need to be slower. I'm gonna say it definitely needs to be slower. Let's make it like 200. Because I want to make sure it's kind of pretty much completely emptied. It might need to be a lot slower. I think I should make it like 1,000. Okay, so what you should wind up with here. Let's see what happens, right? Also, I think I've detected a potential problem. I think the redstone pulse from the timer goes through the precision dropper and occasionally hits the exporter, which will mess up my perfect system. Might be a little bit of a tricky bit, but we'll see. I could probably drop that down to maybe 750, but I want to see what happens here. It's not going to do it every time, but it'll do it occasionally. So that's kind of working. I'm just not loving the fact that the pulse can hit the exporter. So give me a minute to think about how I want to do this. All right, guys, after much playing, this is the best thing I could come up with. Basically, the automatic precision dropper, because it's a full block, will, if there's a redstone signal hitting it directly, like it was before with the timer right up against it, will transmit the signal through the block into the automatic precision dropper, or into the exporter, which then exports the items, which is bad because then we wind up wasting food, right? So what we have to do is we have to give it a weaker signal, which means we have to feed it through a block behind it. This will prevent the redstone signal from affecting the exporter, and that should work out pretty well. I've tried a couple different variations, and this is kind of the best bet we can come up with. The other thing I decided to do is make this a sequencer instead of a timer, and the reason I decided to do this, and I'm going to remove you, is that the timer from RF Tools does something that I don't appreciate. And that is when it receives a redstone signal, it resets, but then it starts over again and it keeps going. So a steady redstone signal does not turn off a timer. And that's kind of a nuisance to me. Lots of other mods, timers would do that, but we don't have a lot of other timer-based things going on right now. So I think we're going to have to stick with that. So basically, the sequencer, we can program it in loop 3 mode, loop when a signal is present, and continue at the current step. So basically, or we could do loop when the redstone signal is present, restart on no signal. So basically, like, you know, I could do that, and then it starts from scratch, right? And then it's going to loop through, and basically it's acting like a timer, but just one that when there's no redstone signal, resets. Okay, and it doesn't run when it's not receiving a signal. Unfortunately, I can't do the opposite of that, so we're going to have to not gate this a little bit. I don't think there's like a built-in not gate. Well, I mean, I guess we could use a gate, and that could work as a not gate. A logic gate. Yeah, there's one. So what we could do is have here a logic gate that is outputting in this direction, and we'll say B, basically when B is off. Basically, if you're not receiving any redstone signal anywhere, emit a redstone signal. On. Boom. Now it's going to run until it receives a redstone signal, at which point it will stop running, which is what we want, and you'll see why in a second. The next thing we're going to want to do, so that should be working. So now if we went down the line here, I'm going to set this delay to 5, and we'll see how this goes timing wise. I'm going to make sure, so you're going to get your card back, which means you will fill up with steak. And then watch what happens when I turn off the redstone signal here. Boom. He's going to get ham. Okay, and I want to keep an eye on it with my wand to see how quickly you empty out. Now keep in mind, once we have 3 of these Gormalaeuses here, it's going to be a different story. That actually seems to be like perfectly timed for 1 Gormalaeus. Not bad. Not bad at all. But now, whoops, didn't want to do that. I want to set the exporter here to be that, so you should be good. But now we've got 2 Gormalaeuses that have to feed into the mana spreader, right? And that might be a little bit of a problem, right? Because you're going to start feeding this before you're ready. A little bit. And now we're going to have 3 Gormalaeuses feeding into the mana spreader, and that's going to be, we're going to have to see what happens. Yeah, see, we didn't even get through the food in this one yet. So we're going to have a problem with the mana transfer speed here. So we probably want another mana spreader or 2. If I made 2 more mana spreaders, then we would probably be in better shape. So let's turn you off for a minute, prevent you from overfeeding, right, and wasting food. And what I'm going to do is make 2 more mana spreaders real quick off camera. All right, so I'm rebinding these guys. So if you look at the outline there, this Gormalaeus is bound to that one, this Gormalaeus is bound to that one, and this Gormalaeus is bound to that one. I took off the lens that I had on there because I frankly at this moment don't feel like making more lenses, but I want to see how the timing is with the current setup, and if it seems like having those lenses will definitely make a difference, but I want to see how it works out with the current setup. Cool. So let's do that real quick. Now the only other thing I might want to do is have like a keep in stock kind of thing going on over here, because when it pulses, it's going to probably on-demand craft the ham and steak. So having a certain amount of ham and steak on at all times would probably be a nice thing, but let's see what happens. Cool. So now the 3 of you should be feeding that thing. Okay. You're going to empty out your Gormalaeus hopefully before the next pulse. We'll see. It's actually really slower, isn't it? So having those lenses might be a good idea. Gonna make it off camera real quick. Okay, velocity and potency times 3. That should be cool now. So this should actually be like a really fast bit of mana production. I'm just curious what's gonna happen once we've got like no ham and no beef in the system, or more, no steak for that matter. So having a backlog of it is good. Let's make sure that you guys have your crafting cards in them. So 1, 2, 3, and I think what's going to happen is okay. So it's probably ideal if we have ham and steak in reserve here. Because see, yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a trick. We really want to have ham and steak in reserve there. But otherwise, it's working pretty great. Now, what was this all about, I bet you're wondering. Let's take a look. So, a mana pool like this can emit a redstone signal from a comparator based on how much power is in there, right? So that's kind of cool. I like that. So the more mana in there, right, the more the redstone signal is going to emit. So I want to turn you on for a minute, let you guys make a bunch of mana, and we'll be right back. So we've got some mana in the pool here, right? What I'm going to do is set up a redstone transmitter and receiver. I totally made a transmitter. I just forgot to grab it out of the system. And basically, this is intended to be a buffer pool just to get mana over there, right? So what I'm going to say is, as long as there's mana in this pool, I don't want any other mana production to occur until this pool's empty, at which point mana can resume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my transmitter like so. And you're channel 4, and I'm going to make sure that you're bound to channel 4. So you're 4 and you're 4, right? Just make sure that you're actually, yeah, transmitter channel 4. Cool, transmitter channel 4. And then this thing can be receiver channel 4. And this thing should then output is off. Why you output is off. We might need a redstone signal in between, or a redstone dust in between these two. Channel 4. Does this thing still happen? I'm curious. Sometimes you have to hit the receiver and the transmitter on the together to get them to behave themselves. So you're 4 now, and you should be stopping the loop. Output is off. Why is output off? Is output off still? Oh, output's on now. Okay, cool. So, out of curiosity, it's probably just the strength of it. So once this hits level 2 strength, it should start behaving a little bit better. So pretty soon that should hit strength level 2. And that should be fine. Oh, your output's on still. Okay, cool. So you're behaving now. And then if we removed this dust, you're eating again, right? Output's off, the loops are running. And if we put the dust back, output is on, the loop is off. Cool? So as long as there's some amount of mana in this pool, it will emit a power of 1, and I just want to see if I can do this without this. Channel 4, output is on. Nice. Okay, cool. Now if I removed this, you should be able to run again. Output is on. Why are you misbehaving? Channel 4, please. You're just misbehaving a little bit, channel 4. Alright, output channel is off. We put a comparator there. Are you going to be on now? You are on. Cool. Okay, good deal. That's a little bit better. We'll just keep an eye on it just to make sure it's behaving, but I think it will. So that works pretty well, I think. Yeah, not too shabby. So this thing will drain now, courtesy of this mana spreader, which is, you know, doing its best to send mana in this direction. And then once... So this pool will be able to fill up, but this one over here won't. Does that sound cool? I like that. So the only other thing that remains to be done to get this thing working perfectly is keeping ham and steak in stock rather than crafting it on demand. And that might be tricky. So let me think about how I'm going to do that. All right, so this is going to be a little convoluted, but it should work. I've got a filter. I wouldn't mind a resonant servo, actually. It would be cool to have. And while you're crafting, I'm going to go down here. And wherever I put this doesn't super duper matter. I'd kind of like it to be in this general area. So maybe what I'll do is we'll have an interface. So we're basically going to want this. Where do I want this to live? What I could do is have an interface here. Okay. Did you finish my servo by chance? You did. Good job. And we could have a chest here with an external storage here. Okay. Filtering steak and ham, so that's the only thing that's allowed to go in there, with a priority of 10. So that's a high priority, which means this is the highest priority within which it will store and extract steak and ham. Cool. Type items, whitelist, compare, yes, 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 yes. Insert and extract is fine. Maybe I'll set you to only extract only. So you can only pull items out of this chest. It'll never store items in this chest. Right? You are going to be responsible for creating some steak and some ham as well. And we're going to need a crafting card to help out with that. So you should begin doing your thing over here, crafters. Make me a crafting card, please. Boom, boom, boom. Crafting upgrade. Sweet. You go into there. Yeah, I know. Some of those you can shift click the upgrades into, and other ones not so much. Boom. So now you should on-demand craft ham and steak. Cool. And then what I'll do is I'll stick a impulse item duct in between you two. We will do that, and I'm going to set you to keep 32. Well, I mean, we could even make it 16. Whitelist. You and you. And what that should do is when I put this guy on there and set him to ignored, he should transfer 16. That's going to happen. So it's trying to compare dictionary, compare redstone mode. That's annoying. So it's taking him out of here to put him into here. I thought there was a prefer crafting setting, but all right, now we're getting super convoluted. But I'm making this a subnetwork of refined storage. Now the problem is if I put an external storage on this interface, it kind of treats it as part of the same network. So then it starts fighting because there's two controllers on one network and it gets a little derpy. So putting an external storage on an interface is not going to work. So I have to put an external storage on the chest. And then what I'm going to have to do is do the same kind of setup I put down there a minute ago. So we'll do this with a filter set to whitelist. Let's say a dozen ham and steak. And you're keeping your 16 there, so then we put our servo on this dude and set him to ignored. And he's going to keep his items in there, and they're just going to transfer appropriately, right? So you guys should have your ham and steak. And what I'm going to do is clear this so that it resets the whole system, kind of. So now going forward, this guy should keep 16 ham and steak in stock at all times. This chest will keep 12 in at all times, and we should be in good shape. Cool. And then as long as we have mana in that thing, it's going to prevent this thing from running, and then when this empties, it'll continue to run. So that looked to me like a pretty good system. There's a little bit of complexity to it, and some of the areas are a little overly complex, but overall, it works, and it should be pretty close to perfect. As close to perfect as is possible. For now, Devil20 signing off. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We've automated the Gourmalaeus with these nifty logic rules of alternating food, and it should be pretty perfect. All right, guys, you know the deal. Take it easy.